toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like a party about to happen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. We are glad to be here for show number 239. We are talking about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And our special guest in the studio this week, Mr. Joe Breda, our old friend from Old Humble Distilling. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
We had a little scheduling snafu last week. We had planned to have Joe last week, but thanks to some wires getting crossed, we wound up having him this week. So my only bummer about that is, well, not my only bummer, but the main bummer about that is that you had something very special going on at the distillery, and we didn't get a chance to promote it before it happened.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when a bus full of nuns crashes and you have to start rescuing people out of the fiery wreckage, I mean, you do what you have to do.
Right.
And,
I heard something about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Everybody survived. Everything's good. But you know, it happens.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and you know, of course, our last show aired on World Whiskey Day.
That's pretty awesome.
So
that is pretty cool.
So we're going to be a week late celebrating, but I think it may be worth the wait because you brought something very special.
Every
today,
day is World Whiskey Day when
I'm with you on
when
that.
you have a proper distillery.
Oh, yeah, I'm very much with you on that one.
I love this.
So,
you brought something special, though,
yeah,
right?
what we were releasing, we released it on Saturday. It is our Blackout Boomtown Bourbon.
Blackout.
72-hour Blackout special edition label of our Boomtown Bourbon. It is made exclusively with rainwater captured from the freeze and 72-hour Blackout of February 2021.
Nice. All right, let's hold up because we're not gonna get started yet on the tasting. So
That's fair.
So hang on because we got segments. We'll get to that.
I think he's following the OSHA compliance.
Unless you got a lot of other whiskey in your bag over there.
No, this is the whiskey.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we'll build some anticipation.
That's fair.
Because I'm very, very excited.
But yeah, we
about
released it on Saturday. We had a big party, 3 bands, lights and everything. It was a whole lot of fun, and we still have about 6 or 7 cases remaining.
So what did you have total to begin with?
We started with 12. We
So
sold
you got
about half of it.
yeah.
And we're going to be open on Friday for Memorial Day, Saturday afternoon before Memorial Day, and on Memorial Day itself.
And it's available only at the distillery.
Only at the distillery,
Okay.
exclusively at the distillery. This will never see a store.
Exciting and good to know. So, all right, so we'll be tasting some of that here today, and I'm very excited about that. Also excited about some beers we'll be trying out from Eureka Heights Brewing Company right here in our hometown of Houston, Texas.
Great guys.
We'll be trying their 713 Pilsner.
Ooh.
So this is a brand new one. And I think we'll have to look at the can here in a minute, but I think they put a mosquito on the can, like a cartoon mosquito on the can, which I think is pretty accurate.
Well, they always have something funny and snarky on the can.
From New Belgium Brewing Company in Fort Collins, Colorado, we'll be trying their Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze. We've had a couple of the other Voodoo Ranger IPAs in the series, but we have not tried this one, so it should be exciting. And then from Duclaw Brewing Company,
It's hard to go wrong with Duclaw.
oh, you're going to love this. It's their porter called Regular Jesus.
Nice.
So this is going to be very exciting. Duclaw out of Baltimore, Maryland. So we're really excited about all of those things. We got a lot to talk about, too. Tell you about some cigars to watch for. Tragedy at Fuente.
Uh-oh.
A fire burned down and destroyed the Fuente tobacco warehouse.
Oh, that sucks.
If you want an Opus X, go get it now at your favorite cigar retailer because there's going to be a shortage of Fuente tobacco. I mean, I'm sure they'll source more, but this is Fuente's. They grow a lot of their own tobacco and stuff. So yeah, it's.
That sucks. I bet it smelled amazing, though.
I bet it did, yeah.
I know, right? As if we needed any reason for the Lost World to become even more expensive. But,
Right.
But hey, it is what it is. So, and in addition to that, we'll talk about the best destinations for a beer vacation. already I like this. Beer vacation.
Beer vacation.
We should be planning this.
I don't know that I've ever taken a quote-unquote beer vacation.
I don't know that I've ever taken a vacation that wasn't a beer vacation.
I don't know that I've ever taken a vacation from beer.
Exactly. This is the point. So we'll tell you about, as far as destinations for a beer vacation, we'll tell you about that. And as if all of that wasn't enough, we will bring you...
Wait, there's more?
Oh, yes, that's right. I haven't even gotten to our most popular segment yet. We will be bringing you another episode of Drinking News today. And, of course, our Drinking News teaser headline, it's all about Updog.
What's that?
What's up, dog? Nothing, man. What's up with you?
I feel like you got me on
I feel like I asked you to say that so I could get you. But
what you eating under there?
No, it's a dog's life, and we'll prove it. Coming up on today's Drinking News. So a lot of fun stuff in the works for today's program, and we want to thank everybody for being here and being a part of it. We got an inquiry this week. We could soon be on the air in Abilene, Texas. The reason I'm talking about it is because they still haven't told us where our affiliates
right?
are. But I got an inquiry from a guy in Abilene who has a news talk station there who was interested. So I pointed him back to the appropriate places so they could set everything up. But this is how I know we may soon be on in Abilene. So
that's awesome.
So, yeah.
There's a cool little liquor store in Abilene called Philo Liquors.
Philo Liquors, huh? They carry any of the old Humble distilled spirits?
That's what makes them cool.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Good. Well, we'll keep that in mind for when we do our first market visit. So, yeah, that'll be very exciting. Gosh, there's so much going on. Ian, how about you? Would you have a good week? Did you smoke anything interesting?
I did, actually. I sat on my patio today, all nice and relaxed. I dug in my humidor, which is not desolate anymore. I've been slowly building it back up, but I found myself an old standby, actually, that I don't think I've ever reviewed. It was an Oliva Serie O.
Oh, a Serie O.
Serie O. I don't pick this up because I love the Maduros, the Serie V Maduros and the Melanio Maduros so much that I just don't pick up the O as often. But I got it in a mixed bag of cigars that I ordered at one point in time. This is the 6x52 Torpedo, the Serie O, and this is right off the website here. Serie O is a sun-grown Puro made in the original Cuban tradition of growing the original Cuban seed in diverse regions of the country to produce a distinct blend. This blend was achieved by growing the original Cuban seed in Esteli, Condega, and Jalapa Valley. The wrapper is Ecuador, the binder is Nicaragua, and the filler is Nicaragua. On to my words. The appearance on this rustic and ruddy brown wrapper, firm overall feel, single band. The pre-light sniff, barnyard and fermented haze, sweet chocolate, and some tea leaf on the nose. Pre-light draw, I used a clip. Had a light draw to it, sweet tea and earth with a kiss of leather. The initial light, sweet and peppery, rich earth, hints of toast, white pepper. The retrohale is pepper and sweet tea. The first third of this cigar, white pepper and cream gravy, toasty and earthy, hints of leather and nuts all combined on the palate to create a complex bouquet of flavors that are simple to enjoy. Ghostly hints of mint and sweet tea weave throughout. Retrohale is peppery and woody with a touch of sweetness. Solid ash, good burn. The second third of this, picking up subtle notes of wood and peanut shell added to the complexity. Peanut shell specifically, by the way.
I know what that tastes like.
That's like its own thing, right?
I know what that tastes like.
It's not exactly peanut. It's peanut
I love to get the peanuts like that you shell.
Yeah.
Right? That you roast them and then you get them out of the shell. And sometimes you wind up accidentally getting a little piece of that
just
shell
a little bit of it, right,
attached to the peanut itself. So I know what you're talking about.
So picking up subtle notes of wood and peanut shell adds to the complexity along with a lingering bit of cayenne on the tongue. Retrohale is woody with pepper and sweet nuttiness. Solid ash, uneven burn. The last third of the cigar, pepper ramps up somewhat along with earth and wood. A touch of campfire appears from time to time. Sweet tea, cream gravy, peanut shell, and toast are all constant. Burn corrected itself. Retrohale is nutty and woody with pepper and toast. Solid ash, perfect burn for the last third. For the last third,
okay, so it corrected itself.
It's a $9 cigar. So price to quality, man, I'm going to rate this at a 5.5.
Okay.
It's great. It's as complex as anything that you'll have out there. I just overlook it because it's so ubiquitous.
And I'm totally with you on that. I usually, when I think of Oliva, I'm thinking of
always
a Serie
V. Yeah,
because
so good.
Because they're just so amazing.
But they have so many other good things. And, so for me, it's like Serie
right.
V and the Master Blend. And things like that. I don't always get to all the O and the G.
Master Blend. See, that's a great line of cigars. I don't smoke those nearly enough either. So you're 100% right. 100%. By the way, thinking of the aroma or the flavor of peanut shells, reminds you going, what is that steakhouse? It's like a chain that they have peanut shells on the floor.
Texas Roadhouse.
Texas Roadhouse.
Just throw the peanut shells on the floor.
But it has a certain distinct, like when you walk in, you know you're there because it has a certain note to it. So I totally get what you're talking about. Well, we both had torpedoes this week.
Okay.
You had a torpedo, and I had a torpedo from Nica Libre.
Oh.
There is a rumor that Nica Libre, a less expensive line of cigars, was created to go up against the Padron 1964. Now, if you think about it, that's a pretty big challenge for a modestly priced cigar. After all, the 1964 in a Torpedo or Bellicoso size, which is a damn fine cigar, by the way, will set you back about $16 to $17. While the Nica Libre Torpedo that I smoked this week can be had for $5 or $6.
Nica Libres are great.
So if the story is true, and you were going to release a cigar at less than half of Padron's cost, that could come anywhere close to competing with it, you would want to tap a true cigar master to blend it for you, right? Someone who's known for doing wonders with Nicaraguan tobacco. Somebody who has produced cigars in almost every price range that stand out as being exceptional with distinct and bold flavors. Anybody come to mind, Ian?
I'm
Anyone
thinking,
at all?
I don't know. I can't think of anybody.
Yep. Nica Libre did the fanboy in me a solid by having their base line blended by none other than the living legend, AJ Fernandez.
How about that?
Nica Libre has since teamed up, by the way, with Aganorsa Leaf and with Oliva to produce different cigars in their line, and I'm anxious to try those. I haven't had either one of them. But those guys know what they're doing as well. But today I'm focused on the core line, which were the first Nica Libres to come out, and they were blended by AJ. This Torpedo was a beautiful, slightly oily, dark brown color, box pressed, just like the Padron 1964. And in fact, I'll wager that if you put them side by side, they'd be tough to tell apart without the band. That's how much it actually looks like it. Mexican San Andres Maduro wrapper and all Nicaraguan tobacco for binder and fillers. Now, I used my cigar scissors to clip off the tip, and I took in the pre-light aromas, a deep, mature tobacco barn note, and a hint of pepper. Once I lit that baby up, I was greeted by the return of our old friend, the Nicaraguan Pepper Blast.
There needs to be a song for
or
that.
The NPB, as we like to call it, since we don't have a song. The initial punch of pepper receded fairly quickly, and the Nica Libre got down to business. Now, dark earth, leather, and coffee made their presence known when the pepper pulled back a little bit. It was still there, but not as dominant at first. There was a note of chocolate as well, but I'll get to that more specifically in a second. Ash was a little flaky, fell apart at about the 3/4-inch mark, but the burn was decent and smoked like a champ. Okay, I mentioned chocolate, right? What started out as an underlying note in the first third blossomed into a rose of cocoa in the second. By the midway point, I could legitimately describe the Nica Libre as a chocolate bomb.
Yes.
It reminded me more of AJ's own Bella Artez line than the Padron 64, but it'd be hard to complain about that. Final third, more chocolate, earth, and the finish of pepper that was most noticeable on the retrohale. Bit of citrus zest. Very, very impressive at this price point. Cigars like the Nica Libre make the price-to-quality scale difficult to manage because they have a tendency to work against super premium sticks at super premium prices. Those cigars may be incredibly good, but after smoking the Nica Libre, it's more difficult to justify the $17 Padron. In the end, pretty hard to criticize a nicely complex, really awesome cigar that I could actually afford 3 of for the price of the Padron. The Nica Libre, bottom line, great cigar, great price to quality, 6.5.
Nice.
And I probably would have given it a 7, but I'm a little self-conscious about coming off like an AJ fanboy. So, all right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting Mystery Beer coming up next. Stand by. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits and hand-rolled cigars. And one of the things we like to do on the show, and I think we're going to be doing more and more of this, is to do occasionally a mystery beer. This is where we will taste a beer, and at least in this case, I brought it so I know what it is. But to Ian and to Joe, it'll be a mystery. And you guys can tell me what you think before you know what the beer is and who it comes from and all of that. And then, Ian, you also mentioned that you have some mystery beers that you could bring to the show and would like to bring.
Boy, do I.
Can I trust you? That would be the number one question. I actually have already poured this mystery beer, so I'm going to pass those around. This is, I think, I don't know. I'm hoping this will be interesting. I have not tasted it before. I know what it is.
I think you can trust me on beer. I've been known to bring some god awful spirits.
You have. Although, what was that mead stuff you brought that time? That was. Is that qualified as a spirit, or is that a wine, or what is that?
So bad.
Oh boy, it was. Yeah, but yeah, you have brought some terrible spirits.
That's the first time I brought something on the show that you literally wouldn't taste. You were like, nope.
The smell was all I needed.
It was pretty awful.
It was all I needed. Speaking of smell, what do you get on the nose of this baby?
A little hoppy.
Yeah, a little hoppy. I will tell you it's an IPA.
Yep.
And
it's like a dark straw color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where like someone needs to be hydrated.
Looks like an IPA in the...
a very dehydrated person, yeah.
Very hoppy.
It's very hoppy. It's a little thin on flavor.
Mm-hmm.
But it has hops.
Yep.
It definitely has hops.
It's like hop water.
That's interesting that you use that as the description.
It's like literally like hop water.
There's a lot of hops and not a whole lot of
Is there alcohol in this?
You know, there is a line of something called hop water.
Yeah, I think so. Didn't we try one of those?
I'm trying to remember if we did
This
or not.
literally tastes like hop water.
It's got alcohol.
Does it have alcohol?
Yeah, I can taste.
Guess what? It doesn't. It's the Carbach Free and Easy non-alcoholic IPA. Just because you're taking it easy doesn't mean you shouldn't have a good time, they say on the can.
All the flavor of an IPA and none of the payoff.
Non-alcoholic malt beverage with natural flavors, contains less than 0.5% alcohol by volume. So
hop water.
You kind of nailed it. You kind of nailed it, though. You said, "Does this have alcohol?" Like before,
tonic and hops.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons I wanted to do it as a mystery beer because I wanted to see if you would miss, the alcohol
with natural flavors. We don't know what those flavors are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what they said about high C fruit punch. Remember, natural flavors. The thing that used to kill me about high C fruit punch, and we drank this when I was a kid at my house.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would proudly display on the can contains 10% real fruit juice.
10% real fruit
Are
juice.
you kidding me? Really? I don't know if I'd be broadcasting that. Just saying. No, I think this is let's put it this way. You give me a choice between this or a St. Pauli girl. I'm going this every time, right?
I mean, this has vastly more flavor than the Michelob Ultra.
Right, which does have alcohol.
That,
Not much, but it does have some. Yeah, I would take this over a Michelob Ultra any day.
I wonder what the calories on this end up being.
I don't know.
70 calories.
70. Well, that's not terrible.
Yeah, well.
Now, here's
again, there's not a lot of fun in the can, if you know what I mean.
Right. Now, here's a question that I have. If you're the designated driver and you're drinking this, right? Let's say you get stopped and pulled over, and the cop can smell the hops or the not the alcohol, but you can smell the beer if you will, on your breath, and you take a breathalyzer. You would pass, right? Because it's such a incredibly low.
You should pass the breathalyzer.
Yeah, it's got exactly 0.05 fun.
Right. So I think this is the new. This is the new way to say, no, officer, I was drinking non-alcoholic beer. And maybe see.
You just have to have like the open cans all over in the car.
That's what I'm saying. I was thinking about our drinking news story a couple of weeks ago about the guy that had the Michelob Ultra open cans all over his car. And I thought, how much of that do you have to drink to get drunk? You'd have to drink even more of this, I suppose. Right. It's not terrible for a non-alcoholic beer. For a non-alcoholic beer, I actually really like it. But I do miss the alcohol.
We need to have a non-alcoholic beer taste.
I agree.
Blind taste.
I agree.
Test, I think.
We'll talk about that, and we'll do it for sure.
You don't have to.
Joe's not in on this at all.
We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Speaking of cigars, the state of Montana gets a tip of the cap from us today because Montana Governor Greg Gianforte signed Senate Bill 122 into law this last week, which calls for a tax cap on premium cigars at 35 cents, meaning that's the maximum tax that can be charged on any premium cigar. So in a time where most people are going the other way,
this is making all New Yorkers like
yeah,
flip over.
Absolutely,
Like
and
all
plan
the,
to
all
move
the
to
politicians
Montana.
in New York are flipping over their graves right now.
Well, they were already excited about Montana because that's where Yellowstone's set, and it looks
Right.
absolutely beautiful when you watch the show. I mean, those beautiful big sky vistas and all that, and you kind of think, yeah, maybe I could live there. Maybe I could
See all
do
this
that.
space way out here in the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
where you can just do anything you want.
Yeah.
Don't smoke a
Smoke a cigar.
So
yeah.
how many cigars would you have to buy in Montana to save the money for a plane ticket from New York to Montana?
You mean just a plane ticket to go out there and have a cigar?
Yeah, just to go.
yeah.
Oh,
to
probably
stock up
about
on
a box of
cigars
cigars or two.
Yeah, probably
with,
so.
With New York's taxes.
Probably so. It's a culmination of a year's work of collaborative effort between the Premium Cigar Association, the PTA, PCA, the Montana Cigar Association, and its member tobacconists. So it's good to know that sometimes the laws actually go the right
that
way.
Makes sense.
Yeah, sometimes it makes some sense.
That's good
so.
to know. I'm like, isn't there a law in New York where a cigar can't cost less than a specific
Yeah,
amount?
I believe that is true.
Like you
Yeah.
literally can't buy a cigar for less than that because
Right.
that's the absolute minimum that you can pay
Yeah.
for a cigar.
Yeah, and of course
It's
we
outrageous.
know the laws in California. We talk about this all the time.
Yes.
That you can smoke anywhere you want to,
Yes.
as long as it's not
Inside or outside.
exactly. So that works out really well. So or not. So Joe Breda from Old Humble Distilling has been on our program on a number of occasions. We've always enjoyed what you've brought in. Before we get into your, do you call this Boomtown Dark? Is that what you call it?
This is our 72-hour blackout Boomtown bourbon.
Okay, so before we get into Boomtown again, since we do have new listeners because of the syndication, give us the sort of thumbnail sketch of how you got started doing distilling in the first place and where Old Humble got started.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Joe Breda, owner, operator of the Old Humble Distilling Company. Back when I was in college, I was underage, and it was illegal to buy beer. So I made beer. It was legal to buy water, hops, yeast, and wheat.
It just wasn't
make beer.
legal to buy
But I couldn't
actual
buy
fermented
the
beer.
finished product. So
Got it.
that's where all this starts, right? I'm in the
I love
dorms
it.
at the University of Houston. We're brewing beer, me and a couple of buddies. And then fast forward to graduation. I can't drink all the beer that I'm making because I have a job and have to wake up in the morning. So we start making wine. And,
That's a perfect solution.
Yeah.
This is a great
exactly.
story, isn't it?
So we start making, me and my lovely wife were making wine a couple times a year. And so we start going to wine tastings to do research to find out what the next batch of
That's
wine's
what
going
I
to be.
call it too.
Yes, strangely.
And market research is one of my favorite things to do. But then I get invited to a whiskey tasting. And this is, we've progressed now. I'm moving into my MBA years and go to a whiskey tasting, which is an animal that I didn't really think existed. And I discover that whiskey can taste like something other than Kentucky whiskey. We have whiskey from Colorado, Texas, a couple of them from Kentucky and one from New York. And they were 4 different brands, 5 different flavors, because there were 2 from Kentucky and they were same brand. But I fell in love with it. I was like, we can do this in Texas and have delicious tasting whiskey that doesn't taste like every other whiskey that ever is made. I'm in. I want to do this. And
That is a true thing. Texas whiskey is a different thing.
It does have its own. It has its own
thing.
distinctive
Yes.
characteristics.
And not only
absolutely.
does it have its own distinctive characteristic, we have more aging regions in Texas than they have in Scotland. We have our Gulf Coast, High Plains, Central Hills, Northern Plains, and Western Texas. We have 5.
Just think about everywhere that Clint Eastwood has shot a movie. That's pretty much it. That's our aging region.
Exactly.
Let me just mention that I have a theory about why Texas whiskey is as good on average or on the whole as it is, and I think it's the water. I think the water in Texas, particularly the Texas Hill Country area and the aquifers that feed all that, I think that is where it starts. I think it's part of the sort of origin of why Texas whiskey is so good. If I grew up in Texas, and then when I became an adult, I moved all over the country, and I have to say I never liked the water just the taste, the flavor of the water anywhere else as much as I liked it in Texas.
Oh, and if you want to be picky too, Austin area,
yeah,
the water there is right out of the tap. It's just delicious.
It's just fantastic. Yeah. Our water here in Houston is good. You know,
and you're not wrong. To start in the process, the water's almost 100% of it before we boil the grains and then distill the grains, and at the end of the process, it's still 55-60% water.
And you took this to another level because you're collecting your own water.
We collected right from the dear Lord himself. Yep.
Yeah. Now I'll just mention, by the way, when I lived in Philadelphia. When you go to a restaurant and they say, "Would you like water, sir?" "Yes, sir." "Would you like sparkling, flat, or tap?" You never answer tap. Either sparkling or flat is fine, but you never answer tap.
Comes out with sticks in it.
Yeah. And much love to Philly, but your water's not good. I lived there.
Swimming around.
I lived there. I drove by the Schuylkill River every day. I looked at it. I know water's not good.
Tadpole?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was the collection of rainwater at our new facility that has made completely transformed our entire process of making the whiskey. That's where this whiskey was born.
Okay, so before you tell us about this, do you use rainwater in any of your other whiskeys?
All
or
of our
just,
whiskeys.
So every one?
Every drop of water we use in our distillery is from rainwater.
That is really,
captured rainwater.
really remarkable.
It's not.
What about
it
in your
never
new
hits
fancy
the ground.
toilet?
Huh?
And even in your new fancy
Even
toilet?
in the new fancy toilet,
It's
which
amazing.
we just
that water's
finished installing last week.
Okay, so this particular whiskey, the Boomtown Blackout, or the Blackout Boomtown. Which way do you say it?
72-hour blackout, Boomtown Blackout.
72-hour Boomtown Blackout.
It is our Boomtown bourbon recipe,
which is very good. By
Thank
the way.
you. That in which we used water that I collected specifically in February of 2021.
Which is when we had the blackouts.
When we had the blackout.
So this is really now. When the blackout happened, did the idea hit you then?
It was after we're huddled in my living room under a tent and a blanket fort in front of the fireplace, grousing and being cranky, being able to watch TV for 3 minutes a day. And then once the roads cleared, I drove up to the distillery to check on the pipes and make sure everything was good. And the ice was beginning to melt, so we heard the cisterns overflowing into the runoff creek in the back. And I thought to myself, I should do something with that water. And I locked up, got in my car, left. Went about 5 minutes down the road, stopped, turned around, went back to the distiller. I'm like, I should definitely do something with this water. We're not going to have it back. It's going away.
So how did you collect it?
We just grabbed 2 totes and grabbed 500 gallons of it.
Wow.
That's why we only had about 12. We had 12 cases originally. And 1 case went to the Texas Whiskey Fest a month ago, and the other 11 were at the distillery, and we sold about half of those yesterday.
Can you taste a difference in whiskey that's been distilled with rainwater or collected water from one time versus another? In other words, is the flavor characteristic of the water always essentially the same or close to it, or can you tell differences?
It can be different.
Okay.
If you're specifically collecting that water from that day, it can be very different from that water, from like the summertime to the wintertime. It can be very different because of the
atmospheric
saturated
conditions and
carbon in the air. Because what happens when it rains down, it will collect up that carbon dioxide in the water itself. So you have a little bit of mineral content in the rainwater. It's not mineral content like what you get out of calcium carbonate in the ground, but it's definite mineral content you get out of the air.
Science, man.
It does not. It does not taste like tap water because there's no fluorine or chlorine or saturated metals or anything like that from the pipe, so we don't ever have to extract that out. So because it's never in there to begin with.
If they had talked about stuff like this in science class when I was in school,
right,
I'd have paid so much more attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If they would connect science to distilling and beer and all the other fun stuff,
fascinating stuff.
I'm in.
What is your take on? Obviously, you've tasted this. You've got about half of it already gone. What is your take on it versus your regular Boomtown bourbon?
So we kept it in the barrel a little bit longer than our typical Boomtown, but it has a much creamier, nuttier flavor to it than our previous 3 batches that we pulled out of barrels this year so far. And it was specifically to give it that extra time in the barrel, give it that extra creamy, extra nutty flavor.
All right, now you're whetting my appetite. So
you ready?
Let's do a little market research here, shall we?
There it is.
Yeah, I like that. See, Joe's been on before. He knows what to do. I'm really curious because I really enjoy the Boomtown, just the regular one, because I feel like it's just got I don't know. It's got such a great balance to it, and so I'm excited to try this with the special blackout.
And we shoot for that with most of our whiskeys. We shoot for a balance because an unbalanced whiskey gives you a weird feeling when you drink it, and you shouldn't have to work to the bottom of a cup ever.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I get wood notes right off the top of this.
You get them on the first sip too.
No, I hadn't sipped it yet. I was taking my time. I was talking while you were sipping, sir.
I'm usually not accustomed to that. Usually, by the time I finish my sentence, he's halfway into his research. So,
that has almost a buttery finish to it.
I get butter. I get wood. I get almost like an almond sort of a flavor.
And there's a kickback that comes with the heat after you swallow. There's a little cinnamon that comes back with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of drapes across the back of your tongue. It's a delightful whiskey. Absolutely love it.
And how many bottles total did you make?
We made 144.
Okay.
And we have left. And on Saturday we had 132 available. As of right now, we have about half that, six cases, whatever that is, 72.
What are the laws regarding shipping something like that out of state?
Y'all can do whatever you want. The distillery can't.
Okay.
I can sell 2 bottles per person per month in my shop. There's a bill on the floor in the Texas legislature right now to move that up to 4. That won't go into effect until September if it passes. But I can't ship. The distillery can't ship it.
So the state is slowly letting distillers sell to their customers.
Yeah. They're coming around.
What I'm trying to figure out
there'd
is
be a no-brainer in there somewhere. But
you think.
What I'm trying to figure out is who benefits by the fact that someone from Georgia can't call you up with a credit card or find you on the internet with a credit card and have you ship a bottle of this to them. Who's
it's not who benefits, it's who gets cut out of the loop.
Right.
Republic, Glacier.
So it's about the distributors. Right. It's about the distributors is what you're saying.
Those guys get cut out. If I ship it straight, they get cut out of the loop.
They get cut out of the loop and they don't make money.
And in fact, Total Wine and Specs can't even ship it. You have to buy it, put it in a box, and send it yourself to your friend in Georgia.
So why then don't the distributors have the right to why don't they do it via mail order or via online? In other words, it seems to me, that you hear about a great whiskey and it's in a state you don't live in, and you have no way outside of having a friend there who will buy it and ship it to you.
But here's the truth.
Or traveling there yourself to be able to try it.
Those laws are different in different states.
I get that.
They're different in different states.
So there are some states that you can buy whiskey and have it sent to you.
And we're actually hooking up with a distributor as we speak that will allow us to do it next month in June because they have a facility here in Texas, one in California, and one in I think Florida or one of somewhere over on the East Coast where I ship them my product and then you can buy it online and they will distribute it to
and
where they go.
Will they get you in retail stores in those areas as well?
It can move into retail stores. If we have a market in that area, I can call up a retail store and say, hey.
So with that in mind, are you thinking you may have to step up production?
We're working towards it.
Wow.
Because
you guys started really small, right?
We are extremely small.
Yeah. You're still actually really small, right?
Not only physical space. I mean, our physical space is 2,500 square feet, but just the production that we do, we're on a scale that we make in a year what other guys spill in a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
To borrow a phrase from Sam Adams.
Yeah. To come back to this, it's got a lot of minerality once you kind of come back to it after a little bit. You really taste, and almost it makes it surprising that it's collected rainwater because you almost think this has got real limestone spring water going on. And
there's a certain dryness to the finish too that's really interesting. I'm gonna
100%. I see you're going for a little splash of water.
I'm just super curious if anyone else wants to try.
With your non-alcoholic vodka.
It is. It's not alcoholic vodka.
Does it open it up at all?
Okay. So, it's cinnamon bubblegum.
I'm gonna have to try that. I may have to have a little bit more of the
really incredibly interesting.
Cinnamon bubblegum.
Cinnamon bubblegum and wood. Whiskey has bubblegum flavors sometimes. That's just a thing. That's something that you get. But yeah, I would say cinnamon bubblegum and wood, and there's a little vanilla, and All kinds of things going on. It's fun.
No, I'm glad you always like it.
Now, what is it about a bottle that
It's delicious.
once it starts to kind of go back on the neck,
It's that capillary
it
action.
continues doing
It's that capillary action.
Ooh. Cinnamon bubblegum.
Yeah, cinnamon bubblegum.
You're right on it.
In a great way.
You're right on it. All right. We're going to take a break. We will be back to talk a little bit more about this very interesting whiskey coming up. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Boy, are they fun.
We've been trying out the Blackout. I always get this wrong. Blackout.
72-hour
Blackout
Boomtown
Boomtown bourbon from Old Dumble, and it's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot to describe about this, and I do want to come back to it. But before we do that, we want to try the first of our non-mystery beers today. Although it may not be mystery, but it's certainly very intriguing and interesting. It's the 713 Pilsner from Eureka Heights Brew Company, right here in Houston, Texas. And as Ian can show you, or you can see on the B-roll there if you're watching the video version, the 713 is a Houston area code, which is where
the Houston area.
Well, there's more than one.
Oh.
Though. Yeah.
All the
Come
others
on.
don't count.
I can't get a
going old
713.
school.
I can't get a 713 number. They won't
Wait,
give
don't
me
you
one.
live in 281?
Yeah, but I was born in 713.
Ah, no.
I got you. This almost sounds like a rapper's discussion, right? Like, aren't you really 7? Yeah, but I was born in the 713.
281 fell on me.
Used to be 713 before that.
Yeah.
281 came to me.
I
I
was
was born in 713.
I was 713 before 713 was cool. That's what I was. But
You
713
don't want to be 832. That's,
and unfortunately that's what my number actually is an 832. I feel like a third
you're
class.
one of those
I'm
people.
a third class citizen.
Those outlanders.
In any case, this is a 713 Pilsner, and it is they call it a loopy Pilsner on the can. I'm not sure what that means.
They just always have some fun, ridiculous thing, and there's a
cartoon mosquito.
angry-looking mosquito with a
Yeah.
taco, a Texas tattoo, and a pair of boots with what looks like maybe a rose on them.
Because
like
of
that.
course.
The Loopy Pilsner for Houston, or HOU, which is the airport.
Yeah, or H-Town.
And they always have something funny to say on it. This crispy little Pilsner is perfect for swimming through the humidity on your way to crush some tacos. We use the fanciest Pilsner malt and noble hops to keep things classy.
This is quite good.
It is.
This is a darn good beer.
It's
and
a very, very
I'm
tasty
going to let this
Pilsner.
cat out of the bag. I don't know why the cat was in the bag, but I'm going to let this cat out of the bag. I had one of these last night.
All right. I'm a big fan of Pilsners.
Sitting on my
Yeah.
patio.
I drink those all day long.
Yeah, and Pilsner's actually as big a fan as I am of IPAs, and I say this a lot on the show. IPAs are very much more often going to fight with the cigar, whereas Pilsners generally, unless they really hop them up, are less
No, if you're
easy,
looking for something,
less difficult to match
if
with
you're
the cigar.
looking for something cigar friendly, Pilsners, lagers all do real well.
And of course, porters.
Anything on the darker side is generally going to go.
Come to the dark
sours
side.
can be questionable.
Yes,
I
I
think
agree.
for the most part,
I
are
agree.
questionable with cigars. And IPAs, like if you go
It's
with
hit and miss.
if you go with a double IPA, sometimes they get the malt profile up high enough to where it doesn't crush a cigar or vice
But I've
versa.
also had lighter IPAs, like a Founders All Day IPA. I have no problem with that in
But
a cigar.
that's almost closer to a pilsner though. At that
right.
point,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, I think this
like
is
in
very good.
drinkability anyway.
This
I
is
think
very
this is very
delightful.
good, and I would
love
drink
these.
this for like for extended periods of time. In other words, this is not one of those. Oh, it's very interesting, and I like the taste, but I only want one.
No, I
This
had
is
this.
one-
I had this
yeah.
on my patio last night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very nice.
They're great for warm weather, which we have 9 months out of the year.
Yes, it's about that time again.
It finishes so nice. It's like
Yeah,
a little,
I know. It's
little
it's
splash
really
of
good.
flavor, and then
For those who are not familiar with our breweries here in Houston, Eureka Heights is truly one of the fun ones. They have they're not the most experimental. I would put that more towards like Ingenious
and-
or some of the others, but they just make really interesting takes on the classic beer styles. Is the way I kind of look at it, and I really like what they have going on. Plus, they're a fun place to go and visit. I like Eureka Heights. I like this beer a lot, and this may be one of my favorites actually in in
Yeah,
their
so
lineup.
I also love them for the fact that they still do a proper ESB. Who makes an
Yes,
ESB
they
anymore? And I
do.
love their ESB. It's called
yes,
Wicked Awesome.
And it is awesome. And by the way, they have a great seasonal. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it's the one with the pair of shorts with the Christmas lights on it. It's like tinsel and
It's.
why can't I think of it off the top of my head?
I'm trying to remember the name of
But
it.
it's a really fun holiday
Yes.
holiday beer. Got a nice little holiday spice to it. All right, we got to take a break. When we return, we want to talk more about this this whiskey, and we want to talk a little bit more about Old Humble, and we got to get into our list of the best destinations for a beer vacation. It's Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Beautiful things.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of craft beers, and an interesting article I stumbled across in Vine Pair. Do you ever spend any time on Vine Pair
Yes,
online?
yes, I
It's a
have.
very,
I like
very good site. They have some very interesting articles. This one is about their top 10 destinations, vacation destinations for craft beer fans. So I thought I'd share these 10 with you and see what you think. Number 10 on their list is Lake Tahoe, which is in both California and Nevada, depending on what side of the lake you're on. They say there's great brewery options on both sides of the state line. So they are saying that's number 10.
At least in
And
Nevada, you can smoke a cigar.
yeah. And undeniably, the most popular, they say, is South Lake Brewing Company, which has a couple of different locations open to the public. And while in Tahoe, they say, do not miss Tahoe Mountain Brews. Number 9 on the list, and I've lived here, Philadelphia. Philadelphia area does have several really reputable, especially if you expand it.
Are you talking about Straub's?
Well, maybe, or maybe not. Especially if you expand it past just Philly itself and go into the suburbs. Because if you are willing to consider Downingtown a suburb of Philadelphia, Downingtown has Victory Brewing, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys really have it together. Really know what they're doing. But other half brewing is in Philly. Carbon Copy Brewing, Love City Brewing, and then. There's Monk's Cafe, by the way, in Philly, if you're going to visit. Has 25 beers on draft sourced from all over the world, including, by the way, Pliny the Elder from Russian River, which is very difficult to find.
Yes.
And Philly Beer Week is a big deal there. Number 8 on the list, Melbourne, Australia. Okay, I never would have guessed. So clue me in. Similar to a list of cities on this list, they say Melbourne has been undergoing a craft revolution over the last few decades, and the city is now home to a bustling beer scene.
Contrary to popular belief, not all of Australia's beers look like an oil can.
Yeah, and in fact, if you go to Australia and order that beer, they will look at you funny.
Oh, yeah.
No one in Australia drinks Foster's.
Yes, no.
That's a total
It's
ad
Australian
campaign.
from Budweiser.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Bend, Oregon is number 7 on the list, and this does not surprise me at all because we've had some beers from Bend, and I just lost my article, so stand by. It'll take me a minute to get back to it again. Bend, Oregon, we've had a number of different beers from breweries in Bend, and okay, here we go. Back at it here, and I apologize for the mix-up.
We've all run into that where you tap the page.
You
just
tap the
wrong.
wrong
Something
thing,
just happens.
and you're absolutely screwed. Okay, here we go. Bend, Oregon. The majority of U.S. hop production takes place in Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. So it's no surprise that there's some really great breweries
Right.
in those areas. Bend is home to the most breweries per capita in Oregon, with 16 breweries per 50,000 people.
Wow.
So that's
awesome.
that's a pretty cool thing. They have a thing called the Bend Ale Trail, which you can tour when you're up there at the Bend Brew Bus and the Bend Trolley. But don't miss there while you're there. They say don't miss Deschutes. Deschutes is
Deschutes is outstanding.
just absolutely, and the Ale Apothecary. We've had beers
we
from
have.
those guys here before as well. So that's number 7 on the list. Now number 6, I would never have even known about it had not been for this list. Gothenburg, Sweden While beer, they say, has historically been a central part of Gothenburg's economy, it wasn't until 2005 that craft production really stepped up. And you want to read more about this, but look for Spike's Brewery and something called Dugges, Dugges. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. Number 5 on the list, Chicago. And Chicago, you remember, was and is home to Goose Island. And
Yes.
Goose Island more or less started the
selling
bourbon barrel aging part of craft beer. So
and also selling out to Budweiser.
that's happened as well. Chicago's long been a must visit destination for craft beer lovers. Not only Goose Island, but Lagunitas and the Chicago metro area, home to over 160 breweries.
Oh, I love it.
160. Nice. They mentioned Sin and Suds beer tour as something that takes you through the Chicago Loop and goes to a lot of the different breweries. And then the opening of the Guinness Open Gate Brewery in the West Loop is something they are anticipating and are very excited about. So, number 4, I would never have guessed this, but this is exciting. Mexico City.
Really?
Because that's an easy visit for us.
Yeah.
It's not a long trip. They say it's recently solidified itself as a must-visit city for cocktail lovers, although the beer industry is often overshadowed by giants like Modelo and the owners of Corona and Tecate and Pacifico. But they say Mexico's Brewers Association announced the country's craft production would increase 11% over the next year.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to be exporting to everyone. Casa Cerveza Morenos is recommended as a good place to go, and also a place called Cerveceria Parasiadista.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah. Well, you notice it took me a moment. Bern, Switzerland is number 3 on the list. The phrase European beer destinations usually makes you think of places like, Prague and Amsterdam and Munich. Right. But tucked away in the rolling landscape of the Swiss Alps is Bern, a haven for craft beer enthusiasts that should definitely be on the radar of any passport-carrying craft beer fans. The country is home to over 1,200 craft breweries, which is the highest density of breweries per capita in the world.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. So, Barcelona, Spain is number 2 on the list. I've always wanted to go to Barcelona, never been. They say though Spain may be more acclaimed for its wines and the things that they do with wine, sangria, the country's beer scene, they say, is not to be overlooked. This is a fascinating article, by the way, if you are a traveler. So look it up at VinePair. Finally, number 1, and again, would never have guessed, Singapore. Singapore. Just over a decade ago, they say tracking down quality craft beer in Singapore would have been a challenge to say the least, but in a short amount of time, the city has transformed into a craft brewing hub with an ever-increasing number of microbreweries, beer bars, and even beer festivals. They say to check out Little Island Brewing Company, one of Singapore's largest craft breweries with 32 different beers available.
Wow.
12 of which flow from self-pour taps. And for brews with a view, they say head to Level 33, the world's highest urban microbrewery, located on the 33rd floor of a building in Singapore. Level 33 dishes out 5 of its craft beers on draft, all of which were produced at over 300 feet in the air. So pretty cool. So it's a fascinating list. Go to vinepair.com if you have not been. I think you'll enjoy.
Have you ever had a self-pour beer tap thing?
I have.
It's weird.
It is. I went with my friend Dave in Tampa when we were there. We went to this self-pour, and it is. You're tapping on the screen, and it's very weird.
It's very strange.
It's very strange. I enjoyed it because I got to sample so many different things. That part was really cool. But, it was a little weird.
Is that like one of those Coke machines they have at Wendy's?
Kind of, yes.
Yeah,
it's really with the little touch screen,
That's
and
weird.
you put your cup there, and it pours your beer for you. Yeah, but you're right. It is a little weird.
It's a little weird.
But anytime I get to try different things that, different things that I wouldn't have enjoyed otherwise.
I feel like you're just being a retro grump.
No, I'm a grump. I'm grouchy. I don't like it, and I want those kids to get off my lawn. Bring me a beer properly, please, and thank you.
It's crazy that right as I got to be about the age to yell at kids to get off my lawn, I moved into a high rise and I have no lawn.
Well, your front lawn is Discovery Green.
Oh, well, then those kids definitely need to get the hell off my lawn because they're down there screaming all the time.
You don't even have to mow it.
Yeah, all the time. So I do have a bullhorn. I guess I could yell at them with a bullhorn.
That.
Yeah. I got the bullhorn because there's a guy that comes down to the. I asked my wife to get me this for Christmas, and she did. There's a guy that comes down to the park and starts trying to evangelize everybody, telling them they're all going to burn in hell with his bullhorn. So I got mine so I could go down and chat with him. Except I'm not real good at using it, so most of the time I just set off the little siren noise, instead of which kind of will encourage him to move along to another spot.
That might do it.
That's what I'm hoping. In any case, let's do some beer tasting, Ian. Don't you think it's about that time?
We got to chatting, and I totally
we
forgot. Then I saw you taking a sip of something over there. I was like, you know what I'd like to do?
It was what I had left.
I would like to take a sip of something.
I think we should all take a sip of something. And I'm not going to lie to you. I have had this one. I'm real curious to see what you think of this.
I don't think I've tried this iteration.
Voodoo Ranger has got some really, really good hazy and juicy IPAs. They kind of seem to almost
I remember when they came out with the very
Belgium.
first Voodoo Ranger. I used to buy the mix pack.
Yes.
The mix 12 pack used to come with 3 of 4 different beers.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them were good. Like you could go buy that new Belgium mix pack, and every beer in there was good.
Now they have a mix pack which is just hazy and juicy IPAs. Not just IPAs, just hazy and juicy. 4 different kinds. In fact, that is where this came from because I bought a.
This has almost a mangoey nose to it.
It sure does. It sure does.
They don't have any information really on this at all. Well, wait, it does say here, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy.
All right, we got the good ones.
Yes.
I feel like you might have stolen that from because I think it says that on your bottle too.
Well, I wanted to make sure that our whiskey was safe for guys.
Yeah.
So.
Good to know.
If you're pregnant, you can't drink it, and guys, you're safe.
Okay, good deal.
Unless you identify as pregnant.
Unless you identify as pregnant. And then I think there's another one.
So I love the Voodoo Ranger.
Don't drive a car.
They always have the Voodoo Ranger who's like a skeleton, but he's a pilot, obviously.
Yeah,
so he's got the pilot.
Right, he's got
old
the
school
pilot cap
leather
on,
cap, and he always has the flight goggles on. But in this case, he has like a hat with a card in it, and then he has Elvis style goggles on, and then a Hawaiian shirt. It's pretty entertaining.
You know what else he has? He has some damn good beer.
Oh, I just realized he has a gold tooth. Did you know he has a gold tooth?
Yes, he has a gold tooth, which is awesome. So, see, I am a fan of IPAs. Hazies and juicies are my favorite among them, and this, I think, is absolutely wonderful.
It was pretty darn good.
It's got a full flavor,
the mouthfeel. The mouthfeel really saves it on this, and it's a little sweet too. There's a little kiss of like sweetness to it that's really nice.
And it does have mango. I've been making. So I found this new tea, and you get it like loose tea. It's a mango pineapple tea, but I get it loose. So I use a nice tea maker.
Like unsweetened.
Yeah. So
nice.
I have to take it and I have to put it in little bags so I can use it in my tea maker. Right, so it's a little bit of extra work, but it's so good because of the mango and the pineapple, and it's so fresh. And this reminds me a little of that, except plus beer.
Nice. I've been thinking about getting some black currant tea that way too.
I have some of these little tea bags I can give you. They're just little bags, and you just kind of fold them. And
you give me a tea bag.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I didn't know it was going to be that kind of a show.
We're syndicated, and so there you go. Yeah, that's as far as it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, this
stops here.
This is a darn fine beer.
It's good
Can
beer.
I just tell you? And
it's New Belgium, so you should be able to get this no matter where you're listening to.
That's right, because these guys have got their distribution thing figured out. They are available just about everywhere. And I highly recommend this Voodoo Ranger Hazy Juicy Mix Pack. You'll like everything in it, including their double, which is
their double's quite good. Yes.
Wow. All right, we're going to take a break, and we will be back. Drinking news is not far away, but we have several things to get to before that, and we're going to talk some more about this whiskey. Stand by. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Ian, when I was younger, I was actually legitimately worried that I might be turning into a hoarder. That I might have that tendency, because I like to collect things, right? And so I reached this point in my life where I thought, that's it. I'm not collecting anything anymore. You know what I'm going to collect? I'm going to collect cigars. And you know why? Because eventually you burn them and they're gone.
Yes.
And so fire became the central piece of my having fun as a collector collecting things, because fire ultimately burns the cigar up and moves it away out
Moves
of
it
your
along,
humidor,
right, to make
and
room for
gives you
more.
room to have some more. But fire, despite the fact that it is the heart and soul of the cigar experience, is actually not a great thing always for cigar makers. And this just happened last week when Arturo Fuente's tobacco warehouses in Villa Gomez, Dominican Republic, caught fire and burned to the ground, resulting in a complete loss of the building and all the tobacco inside. The good news, no one was injured. The bad news, approximately 1 million pounds of aged tobacco gone.
That's
Dadgum.
heartbreaking.
Exactly. Just a massive loss, Carlos Fuente Jr. said, of irreplaceable aged tobacco. A lot of tobacco from Chateau de la Fuente, among others. And Chateau de la Fuente is the tobacco farm which Fuente owns in Bonao, where it grows the wrappers for, you guessed it, the Opus X line of cigars. So with the loss of so much tobacco in the warehouse in which it was stored is a setback, but they expressed some relief that it wasn't worse. The tobacco warehouse was located in a Fuente-free zone and also known as Warehouse Number 3. I'm not sure what a Fuente-free zone is, but they were very happy that it happened during the day, because it apparently is easier for them to fight fires there during the day than
And
at
keep
night.
it from spreading and everything else.
So tough one. So
you can see it because the lights are
if you've
on.
been thinking about
guess.
splurging, if you've been thinking about splurging on an Opus X, go do it now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be more expensive in a month or two.
Yeah,
just
and
just
something
based
like
on
that
this
isn't-
tragedy. You
It's
know?
not just the tobacco; it's the time too.
Right,
Because that
exactly. Because that
aged
stuff
and it's-
ages for a very, very long time.
You can replace the tobacco, but you can't replace the time.
That's right. Speaking of time and of aging, this special edition whiskey, the Boomtown. Do you guys age this for a particular period of time before it comes out? Because this flood, the blackout was what
2021,
2021.
February 2021.
So it's a couple years ago.
We age it until it's done.
So what does that
I have
mean?
a particular flavor profile and color profile that I'm looking for. And the thing about it is we use 5-gallon barrels, and we go for at least 6 to 9 months, somewhere in that range. With this one, we went a little bit longer than the 9 months to give it a little bit deeper, a little bit darker, heavier flavor from the oak. But
Which you achieved, by the way.
thank you very much. But each batch, each barrel, each set of barrels that we use for each batch of aging that we do will give us a slightly different flavor profile and a slightly different color profile. The first batch that we pulled out this year in January was much darker than the second batch that we pulled out in February or
why is
early
that?
March. It was the humidity, it was the temperature, it was maybe the char on the barrels was
Something
a little bit
about
different.
Barrel.
Batch number 3 was darker than batch number 2, and then this was darker than, but this stayed in the barrels a little bit longer. So
I love though,
everything was, there's little variables that you get with craft whiskeys.
I just love though that it seems like your product is always like evolving. Like 1 year's release is not going to necessarily be the same. You're not doing a Budweiser and trying to create the most old umbly whiskey you can create and have it be exactly the same all the time. You're actually reveling and you're celebrating the differences in the batches and how long they're aged. What's the longest aging you've done on any of your products?
The longest aging we've done on any products about 18 months in the 5-gallon barrels, which is equivalent to something like 9 years.
I love it.
But we did that because we were moving locations. We just couldn't pull it out.
It's the best you could do. I understand. All right, we got to take a break. When we return, it's time for Drinking News, where we will examine the realities of Updog.
What's that?
What's up, dog? Nothing. What's up with you? We'll be right back. Maybe. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. The fine spirits portion of that being covered this week by our good friend Joe Breda with Old Humble Distilling. And thank you again, Joe, for coming in and,
glad to be here.
and bringing in this fine, fine whiskey. We are so glad to have you guys on the program. We have several things we still intend to get to, but right now, and perhaps most important, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. So,
cheers, y'all.
what's up, Doc?
Rowdy Yates, ladies and gentlemen, on our.
Nobody has a voice.
Nobody has a voice
Rowdy.
like that. That's right. That's absolutely right. All right. So today's news story. You asked what's up. Today's news story, drinking news story, is going to the dogs, our canine companions.
Oh man, this is gonna be rough.
Man's best friend.
Good Lord.
Our strong, fluffy, lovable protectors that are still willing to do almost anything if we'll just throw that ball one more time. Besides just companionship, dogs perform many important functions in our society today, from those on farms and ranches and episodes of Yellowstone that herd sheep and cattle and even horses, to the ones that accompany police officers in the canine units to help cops do their jobs. There are dogs that work with hunters, dogs that help track down the scent of a missing person, and even certain breeds that have been trained to be bomb-sniffing dogs. Now, there's something pretty amazing, right? There are dogs in fiction and in the movies who do incredible things. There's Rin Tin Tin, whose first starring role in a film called Where the North Begins was so successful that it is credited with actually saving Warner Brothers from bankruptcy in 1928. There's also Lassie, without whom we would never have known that little Timmy was stuck in the well. And how about Old Yeller, that fierce protector whose death made grown men cry in cinemas all over the world? And of course, there's Toto, who helped Dorothy navigate the mystical world of Oz, and who also famously blessed the rains down in Africa.
That's right.
Yeah, and cartoon dogs have historically done unbelievable things. Scooby-Doo helped solve mysteries.
Hong Kong Phooey.
Yeah.
Scrappy-Doo.
Scrappy-Doo. Scrappy-Doo irritated and annoyed millions of cartoon fans everywhere and single-handedly ruined a great animated series. From Astro on the Jetsons to Snoopy, perhaps the most famous cartoon dog ever, to Santa's Little Helper on The Simpsons and Brian Griffin on Family Guy, cartoon dogs, while even though fictional, have been depicted doing incredible things to help their human friends. And in the real world, it might be possible, under certain circumstances, for a dog to help his owner avoid getting a ticket or even escaping arrest.
How do you train a dog to do that?
It could actually happen. That is why
that sounds like a hairy situation.
Colorado man decided to try a novel approach last week in Springfield, Colorado, a town of about 1,300 people on the state's eastern plains. Police had pulled this man over for speeding and had noticed him driving erratically. And that was when the Colorado man came up with the clever idea of claiming that he himself had not actually been driving the car. Police saw him shuffling around in the front seat and exchanging places with his dog before letting himself out the passenger side of the vehicle. So yes, that's right. The Colorado man wanted police to believe that his dog had been the one actually driving the car.
I don't know what to say about that.
He actually told the officers he had not been behind the wheel, implying that it was clearly Rover who'd been operating the vehicle. Police said the man then clearly showed signs of being drunk and in fact ran from the cops when asked about how much he'd had to drink. Never a good idea when they say, "How much have you had to drink, sir?" to break into a run.
To just run.
Yeah. He was caught within about 20 yards. There have been reports, although we cannot substantiate them at this time, that officers questioned the dog. And then when asked about how it was going, being this man's pet, the canine allegedly replied, "Rough." Again, we cannot fully verify that this part of the story actually took place. Police arrested the man on suspicion of charges including driving under the influence of alcohol and or drugs and driving while ability impaired, as well as for previous warrants for his arrest. So there was that. The dog, who was not mentioned by name in the police report, was not charged with any crimes, and it's not clear what authorities plan to do with him. I would suggest assigning him to the fire department, since it's reported that this particular animal has an obvious talent for locating fire hydrants, and that can be important, when you're a fireman on the go. Reporting live for Colorado, where I'm trying to train a dog to drive, but so far, all he seems to be interested in is performing the incredible canine feat of licking his private parts. My name is Cruz, and that is your
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. So the only one I didn't work into there was the old joke, why does a dog lick his private parts? Because he can. Yeah.
Right.
So, there you go. Ian, you have poured us some regular Jesus here.
Man, I did. Regular Jesus by Duclaw Brewing Company.
Yeah, I got to love Duclaw. We've had a number of beers from these guys, and they've
Baltimore,
always been very
Maryland,
impressive.
yes.
Yeah. And it beats the hell out of Baltimore's most famous brewery, which is Natty Bo. That's not good beer,
Natty
fans.
Bo.
I'm sorry. It's just not.
So it's
not
called
good
Regular
beer.
Jesus, a porter that tastes like a porter.
Well, that's a
what it
pretty
says.
That's a pretty exciting thing.
All right.
Have you
know,
tasted
I
this? yet?
love porters.
Yes, I know you do.
And it's just about it's just about the season for me to go float down the river and drink my barley wines and porters on my inner tube.
I love that. That's what people think of. When people think of summer, they think of Ian on an inner tube drinking the biggest beer he has in his collection.
I mean, why not? Why save the light beers for that?
I've thought of a lot of things in the summer.
Yeah.
Never once.
Did you think of Ian on an inner tube? That's probably good to know.
Never once.
Probably good to know.
Have I thought of you on an inner tube?
You'll be trying to poke out your mind's eye for the rest of the day.
Now, my
I've thought
favorite
of a lot of people on an inner tube, but not you specifically.
my favorite porter, I think, is the 512 Pecan Porter.
The real trick is don't try to picture me in all my glory in the inner tube. I want you to picture me getting in and out of the inner tube.
There you
Oh,
go.
that's funny.
That's the best
yeah,
part.
Yeah, that's that could be useful at times. That mental image. When you're trying to think of the most unsexy thing you can think of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For certain moments in time.
I feel like you're trying to hurt my feelings. Fortunately, I don't have any of those.
I was just
I
mentioning,
lied. I have good feelings for this beer.
Yeah.
This is very nice.
I was just mentioning that my favorite porter I would always have said had been the 512 Pecan Porter from 512 Brewing. This is every bit as good as that.
It's very good. It's very good. It's interesting because it's got a little bit thinner mouthfeel than I was expecting, but it has all the flavor and roasted coffee.
The mouthfeel almost reminds me of Guinness, but the flavor's different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the bubbles are
I
very.
was
There's
gonna say.
almost no carbonation in this, and it's
Right.
okay. Like that's okay in this beer. It's actually pretty
Yeah.
good.
Like, this is a lot better than I expected.
You know,
And it reminds me a lot of a big, heavy stout.
it's very.
I like it.
It's very coffee leaning, but I will tell you, if coffee tasted this good, I'd drink a lot more coffee. This
Coffee tastes pretty good when you put some Baileys in it.
much better right here. That's all I'm trying to say. I don't know. What do you think? As porters go, where would you put this?
This is a great, just above middle of the road. I think 512 Pecan Porter is unbelievable. It's
And
so
they're
good, and they're
double?
double porter.
Oh God!
I mean, I want to put that on my nipples, and they're not even sensitive.
Yeah.
Can we say that on the radio? But
Show gets looser and looser as it
did I
goes
just
on.
alienate
This is
half
great.
our audience?
nipple is allowed, but yeah, you are right. The show does loosen up a little bit as the drinking continues.
Yeah, this is a good porter. There's nothing wrong with this. I have had their smoked porter. Their smoked porter is incredibly interesting.
That's the smoked Jesus, isn't it?
I don't think that's what they called it.
Because
The
they
Joan
have
of Arc?
they have this.
Oh, this is what
Okay,
happens.
this is what happens. See, once we get past drinking news, all bets are off. Is what it really.
That's really the
means.
turning point of the show.
It truly is. It truly is. Up until then, we attempt to hold to a certain group of rules that translate
Some
into
morality
decorum.
and all those other things.
Yeah. After that, I'm just looking up Duclaw Porter to see.
So one of the early beers that we brought when we very first started the show was a Duclaw smoked porter.
All right. So this is regular Jesus, and then they also have one called Sweet Baby Jesus.
Yes, we've had that on the
Yeah,
show.
and we have had that on the program. And they have an Imperial Chocolate Peanut Butter Porter, which is Duclaw for Pete's sake.
That's pretty fun.
That's pretty good, man. I gotta try some of that. So now I've started looking at this website. I've lost all interest in doing the show. I'm like, I want to try that. I want to try that. Wow, it's pretty good. No, I dig this. In fact, I want some more because what I would really like to do, if you wouldn't mind, if I could have just a little more of the bourbon as well, because what I'd really like to do is go back and forth, which is always interesting to do, particularly with bigger beers and the whiskey or the bourbon that we're trying. or and just like not to get sidetracked here, but it strikes me that this would go really well with a number of the rums
so it goes
that I love.
it goes well going from the porter to the bourbon, but now I'm going the other direction. We're
Have you done that yet? Okay.
How that goes in just a moment here.
Oh yeah, porter to the bourbon totally works.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually really good. But it brings out almost a peanutty kind of thing in the porter.
In the porter,
Nice.
That's crazy. I didn't expect that at all. I didn't even detect it when I tried to porter in the first place.
All right, I'm gonna give you an obscure reference. Do you remember something that came out when you were a kid called Kugel?
You know what? That tickles my memory. I have no idea what it is, but
It was like a
that
peanut butter spread stuff, and it was peanutty Kugel. It was totally marketed to kids, like whereas Jif and all that's marketed to
Was there like
moms.
Nutella kind of thing?
Yeah. It was like a peanut butter spread, and it would advertise on Saturday morning cartoons, and it was Kugel, and he had googly eyes on the
it tickles
jar.
my memory a little bit.
This reminds me of Kugel because I begged my mom to buy it until she finally broke down and bought one jar. It's all I ever had, one jar of Kugel.
Was it enough?
It was enough, yes. But no, I loved it as a kid. Like it was totally like, kid centric thing. But that's what this reminds me of. A very peanut butter chocolate coffee sort of. But that's what I get when I go back from the old humble boomtown back to the porter.
It's interesting how our palates change from thing to thing, and how much influence one item has on another as you're tasting.
Well, that's totally true because one thing sort of it's kind of like what you always talk about with the whiskey sniff, right? How your palate is different based on the particular cigar you're smoking and what it's gonna line up with the best. So, speaking of cigars, by the way, Romeo and Julieta is opening the Book of Love with a limited edition cigar heading to retailers early next month. And the cigars come in a striking box that resembles a book. And it's a nod to the literary roots of Romeo and Julieta. Yeah. The cigars are made with Dominican tobacco on the inside, Sumatra seed wrapper from Ecuador on the outside. But the most predominant tobacco in the blend, they say, is the Dominican Piloto, which is that stronger Dominican tobacco, and it's intended to be medium full, and the cigars come in one Toro size, and they will be about $13 each. So something you can look.
That's
for.
one I'll pick
Very
up.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ian, here's one you will absolutely love. It disappeared for a while, but Room 101 has brought back the Big Payback.
I know the Big Pay in the giant size.
It's an enormous cigar that measures 7 inches long by a 70-inch ring gauge.
Cruz, that cigar is for grown-ups.
Yeah, I understand. I'm a little frightened by it. I will be completely honest with you.
That's like 10 inches on the internet.
This huge smoke, was introduced in 2014 by Matt Booth, who was the previous owner of Room 101 and likes bears. And he has not been in production the cigar has not been in production since 2016. But now, Scandinavian Tobacco Group, which bought Room 101, is bringing it back, and it starts shipping to retailers on the 1st of June.
Wow.
It is the Big Payback 70.
You know what's crazy about that much cigar? Not only is the Payback series a great cigar, but it's not very expensive.
In fact, yeah, these massive new cigars are a suggested retail price of $8.99 each.
They are cartoonishly massive.
Yeah,
and I love that. You know, like
crazy.
I don't know if you know anything about me, but sometimes I like to be a little over the top about things. Look, if you're going to do a poker game, that's the cigar to have. Like you are already dominating the field at that point. Like, because no one can even look at your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all they see is the cigar.
Sunglasses,
the
giant
folks,
cigar, sombrero.
The folks at Scandinavian Tobacco Group say they want to stay true to the cigar's original mission to repay its customers with a large cigar at a value price point. It ships in red and gold boxes of 30, and that should keep you smoking for quite a long
30?
time.
That's that's a trunk.
Yeah.
Get a big bow tie, too.
All Room 101 brands, by the way, are now being distributed through Forge Cigar Company, which is a subsidiary of STG. But yeah, so you're going to be all good for your inner tube floating adventures.
I can't wait.
Yeah. And I'm going to be, we're doing a family reunion on the river in New Braunfels this year, so I may have to pick up one of these myself.
It's nice. You bring one cigar, and when you get out of the river, which, by the way, can be a 4-hour float, you're still smoking your cigar.
And we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Thank you for being here for show number 329. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And I will just say, by the way, now coming back after enjoying the regular Jesus Porter, I'm loving this even more. It's just something about these two marries up.
It's really nice.
Well.
I was noticing on the back of the bottle, on the back label, is a picture of a saying that's written above, a quote that's written above a door frame that you said was from a school out in Humble area.
The original high school in Humble, Texas.
And it says...
was the Charles H. Bender High School.
It says, impossible is un-American.
Yep.
Nice. I
Impossible is un-American.
I absolutely love that.
We can do hard. We can do improbable. But impossible, as far as I'm concerned, we haven't figured it out yet.
So let me tell you something that I think is absolutely awesome and American. And we don't get to tell stories like this very often because it's usually going the other way. Believe it or not, this last week, Anheuser-Busch sold a craft brewery that they had bought back to its original owners.
What?
Yep.
That's amazing.
They sold Appalachian Mountain Brewery back to its original founders, Nathan Kelishak and Chris Zieber. It's a North Carolina brand. It was one of the ones AB had scooped up during their
big swoop, so to speak.
of trying to purchase craft beers, and they acquired it in 2020. Actually, parenting with the founding pair to launch national partnerships and expand distributions, and now the founders have bought it back from Anheuser-Busch. So congratulations to Appalachian Mountain Brewery.
Yeah, man. I wonder what made them think that. I mean, did Anheuser-Busch reach out to them, or
I don't know.
Or did they say, "Hey, we really like to do this. Are you interested?" I'm curious as to which way that went, but that's pretty wild.
So it happens in the consolidation industry, the old industry that I worked in, the cemeteries and funeral homes. It happens occasionally. The consolidators will buy up a bunch of funeral homes in a market, and they'll keep the owners
and then
around.
Individual ones
and then
will
eventually, sometimes they'll
back.
sell it back. The owner will want it back. It's the end of his consultation contract, and he'll decide he wants to buy his old place back. And
so, if you're the guys,
it happens.
If you're the guys from Appalachian Mountain, obviously selling to Anheuser-Busch when that happened was a payday for you. Obviously,
no doubt. Yeah.
You took this little brewery and you built it up, and Anheuser-Busch came along and paid you, a decent amount of money for it, right? Or you wouldn't have sold it in the first place,
right?
So you got to wonder what happens between then and the time that you buy it back. Did these guys take that money, invest it somewhere, make more, and then buy it back for more than what they sold? Or does Anheuser-Busch find themselves less than satisfied with what it's doing under their ownership?
But here's the thing: if AB didn't do anything with it, right? If they didn't do anything when they just let it kind of coast along, then they're not making back their investment on it.
If you look at something like Goose Island, and we know a bit about this because both Ian and I have read the book Barrel Aged Stout and Selling Out, which is about Anheuser-Busch buying that and the subsequent thing that they went on. But if you think about it, nothing that has happened at Goose Island since Anheuser-Busch bought it has been what a beer lover, a customer, would think of as a very positive thing. That doesn't mean they haven't still made some good beer.
Right.
They've screwed up their IPA. They've screwed up several of their other beers, but they still, every year when they release that barrel-aged, it's
the
amazing.
one thing that they left alone.
It's amazing and incredible every year.
Yeah.
And they certainly have increased their distribution because if you go to a hockey game in St. Louis, you're now going to get all of that stuff from their thing. But in terms of things that would make the customer more loyal to the brand, you got less and less and less of it.
Yeah.
You can look at Karbach here in Houston. Karbach made some good beers. They still make some good beers. But nothing about Karbach has improved since Anheuser-Busch bought them except for their distribution.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
And their sponsorships and their
They
connections
changed
with...
Love Street even.
And
Love Street was a good, solid beer for them.
Absolutely.
And it could just simply be a case where they bought a different craft brewery that kind of filled that same, and they
Filled
were
that
overlapping,
void,
and,
yeah. Could
and they
very well
had
be.
And Karbach is still,
properties in their portfolio that overlapped.
Karbach is still a destination. Like if you're in Houston, go there. It's a cool place.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. They've got a great little restaurant,
But-
too, and their beer is very good.
But you know what else is real cool? St. Arnold's. You know,
yeah.
if you can get
If
in,
you
St.
got-
Arnold's is
if
so
you
busy.
can only go to one, that's the one you should choose. Joe Breda is our guest today. Joe is with Old Humble Distilling Company. We have enjoyed a number of your spirits on this show,
Thank you
but
very much.
this one today has been very unique and special. And you have about half of your stock left.
Yeah,
is
and
that
we're
right?
open. We're open Friday. We're open Saturday. We're open Monday on Memorial Day. Find us on oldhumbledistilling.com. All the social medias: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hey, if you're from the area, it's real easy to find at the intersection of 59 and 1960.
Yep.
You just head east.
About 4 miles.
Yeah, and it's right there. It's like your Google's going to have it. Your Apple Maps going to have it. It's real easy to find.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Thank you to Abilene for being interested. We will salute you with a little toast on our way out. Have a great week, my
Cheers
friends.
to Abilene.
And cheers.
Cheers to
y'all.
Abilene.